Mark Campbell of UCU and London Met and on the NAC. And really just to agree with the last couple of speakers in terms of we have to remember we can still win. And I think this is the problem, isn't it? I mean, this is when you have all of the shilly-shallying around, people sort of saying, well, you know, we really need to spend a long time to analyse the situation. Well, let's be quite frank about this. I mean, if they are still cutting our pay, if they are still, which is what it is, which is what's going to happen in April, by the way, you know, they're still cutting our pay, they're still making us work longer, and we're still going to get less, I can't quite see what we've got to talk about, other than to start saying, when are we coming out? When are we going to reignite this dispute? And I think that's probably the better way of putting it. See, there has been talk that what we can't have is name the day because somehow it'll make us feel better because we already know we've been sold out, we're not going to win, and somehow it'll just demonstratively make us feel better. Actually, that's not what I want to name the day for. I want to name a day because I think that day will not be an end in itself, but that day will be a spark to say, actually, we're back on the stage and actually we can fight. And I think that's the way we have to look at it. It's not one day in isolation, but we need to do it before the changes come through in April, which will totally demoralise our members when they see that money pulled out of their pay packets. And to not understand that relationship is a mistake, in my opinion. And I think the very good leadership we've had in PCS and NUT and in a number of other unions, another number of union leaderships, that could be worked out in the end if what they end up doing is wobbling because of all of the wobbling that's taking place elsewhere. In a sense, they're getting pulled from the right. And I think we have to be a counter to that. And the way we do that is, as others have said, is we've got to go back into our branches. We've got to go into those branches and we've got to win those arguments. Say a debate and an argument that will come up next week at UCU NAC. And it will be used against me specifically because I'm standing for General Secretary against Sally. But the argument will be this. Sally wants to go and do basically a plebiscite of members. Now, in all honesty, I am for consulting members. Let's be quite clear about this. Of course we want to consult members. But what are we consulting them on? How are we going to do that consultation? And is it on the basis that we're going to call a ballot that will last a number of, in essence, months probably, will be, do you agree with your NEC position, which is, we don't want to work longer, we don't want to pay more, we don't want to get less? We'll then take 2 months where we do nothing while those changes go through. Because that's what it will mean in practice. Or do we say, let's go and talk to our branches, let's talk to our activists, let's talk about what we can do in order to win. Now that's a difference, I think, between using a passiveness with members in order to demobilise and actually having, in a sense, leadership that's talking about how do we play to our strengths and how do we take the movement forward. And I think that's the debate that is now taking place. And I think that Mark, that Kevin and others who have already given a lead have to continue to give that lead. And we, as colleagues, various NECs, we have to be there to give them some strength in giving that lead. So we have to say, we are for naming a day. We are for putting a line in the sand and saying, that's what we need to mobilise around. Now we do that as friends. We do that as colleagues. We don't get here to have a go at them. We're having a discussion of tactics. But I tell you what, those tactics will matter whether we win or we lose. And we have to be very clear in that argument. And therefore I think the more we win that argument ourselves in our branches, and we use those branches to put added argument to our leadership, that will help us no end in winning this dispute. And that's what we need to be doing.